All right, so in the previous session, basically, we discussed about how to fetch data from table and display it on the screen. We actually used data page, read-only data page, to get the data, and then we copied it over to property, and that's what we use to display the records. Okay, this is fine. We could have directly used the data page to show it, but we wanted the property to have the data for that customer. So we actually kind of got the data from the table and copied it over. Now we're going to learn about data page savable. Savable data pages, which we will use to insert a new record. Okay. We have three type of data pages. We have already briefly discussed about that. The data pages we have are basically read only. Those are not allowed to be edited even on the clipboard. Editable, you can edit the data on the clipboard, but you cannot save it back. And then the third one is savable. This is what we are going to use. Okay. So we will start from understanding the savable data page first, how to create that for a new record. Okay, for a new record. That's the keyword. So we have this data table customer, and if you have the data configured there in this table, you can fetch it using either report definition or lookup. If you have the customer ID, you can fetch it from the lookup. But now when the user selects no, I'm too old customer, and it says that I'm a new customer, then we don't have the data. We don't have the data in our table. We got to ask the user to enter that. When user says new customer, yes, then the customer ID, do you want the user to enter that? No. Customer ID is something that you generate based on your logic. So the step we are going to follow here is to insert a new record. We are going to generate customer ID automatically. Whenever user says no, if user says, sorry, whenever user says yes to the new customer question, if it says no, we will ask the user to enter their customer ID, they will know. If user says yes, we're going to auto generate that. In this table, in order to insert a record, you need the customer ID, and along with that, these information. We're going to ask the user to basically enter those information on the screen here. And that's what we're going to use to save it. So currently, when we say yes, we should not display this. This section, if you remember, this section is just a second. Insurance plan, user interface. It is embedded section based on the property value. Okay, that's fine. So we are using the property value. So that is okay. We will continue to use it. Okay, fine. We will ask the user to insert. The user will insert, that will go into the customer property. We will copy that data from the customer property to the savable data page, and then we save it. That's the step. But when you are using savable data page, when you create it, you need to define the source. So if I want to create a savable data page here, let me add one new, add data page, new data page. It will go into the customer class only data, and I'm going to say it new customer record, new customer. It's going to deal one customer at a time. So it is page. This is the object customer. It should be savable this time. See, You cannot use report definition. Report definition is to fetch the record that is already there. No, this record doesn't is not there. You cannot use lookup too. The record is not there. Activity you could use to populate the record automatically. Okay. Remember, this data page is placeholder for the data. If somehow you place the data on this data page using not by fetching the record from the database, that serves the purpose. Activity can be used, these are not relevant, or data transform can be used. Remember, we talked about data transform. Data transform is a way to populate or copy over data from one place to another place, or it is used basically to transform the data from one form to another form. What we can do is when the user says yes, we can generate the customer ID in the customer ID property that we have in the work class, and then pass that customer ID as a parameter to this data page. Okay? We will pass that as a parameter to this data page, and this is mandatory. That customer ID will be used to populate the value in this data page. We will use a data transform, new customer record, and we will read the parameter value and put it on the data page as the CID. Okay, so this is the new data transform. It should also be in the same class because it's going to operate on the data of that class. So that parameter from the data page has to be passed on to the data transform too. And whatever you will set here in the database, that's the whatever you will set here, that is going directly on the data page. So we will set the customer ID, and the value is going to be param dot, the parameter that we got, customer ID. This is all it will do. It will take the parameter value and set it on the data page. When you call it from the from the data page, you need to pass the parameter that you got. Then only it will have access to. So click on the parameters and pass the current parameter to the data transform. So when you call this data page, let's try and understand. When you call this data transform page, it will say, okay, provide me the customer ID. You will provide that customer ID that will be treated as a parameter. This data page will pass that customer ID to this data transform. This data transform will read the customer ID and put it on from the parameter and put it on the main page. CID. Let's see. I'm going to just test it, run it. So I'm going to pass the customer ID new cust. Let's say this is alphanumeric, so this is okay. New cust 001 or 110. See, it actually populated the CID that you gave it. So this was passed to the data transform. Data transform read it and populated that on the main page of this data page. Rest of the values are not set, so those are not coming up. This is the primary key. We wanted to populate that. Rest data we will copy when the user enters from the customer property that is there in this work class, and then we will try to save it. The new database, so you configure the source, it is data transform, and because we will have all the data, so save option, we will do a database save. We will immediately save it into the database using this database save option. There are others too, we will learn about them as we go along. But right now we will just use the database save option, which will directly put it into the database. Right, so the new data page is ready for us to use. Let's discuss here. Remember, on the change of this value, you need to generate the customer ID, but conditionally. So you need to run some actions here. Whenever you are changing, you check what is the value of this new customer property. If it is yes, then you generate a customer ID. If it is no, then you do not generate that. Okay, you reset that. So this is the property. This is the configuration of the drop down. New cust is the property name. We are going to set an action. Whenever you are changing the value of this, then we will refresh editable only. We will refresh the section and generate a customer ID. Oh, we will actually refresh the section and then run a data transform. Generate set reset customer ID. Okay, set and reset the customer ID. So it will be called as soon as you change this, yes or no, right? It will be called always. And you can check what is the current value. Is it selected yes? If it is selected yes, so when the value of new, what is the name of the property? This one, new cust equal to yes. That means it is a new customer. Then we should generate the customer ID. And the customer ID generation, so there is a function to generate ID in, in Pega. Click on this gear icon to access the list of functions. Click on the browse and say search generate ID. This is the function. It takes a prefix as a string and then it generates a random ID. Actually, this is current millisecond, so it's always going to be unique. So I'm going to put this. We will put cust as prefix. So that's it. Let's test it. You can test the value of this as well. See, it will randomly generate cust this. Whatever prefix you have given, that will be used before hyphen. All right. So this will generate a customer ID. But when it is saying no, then too the CID will be generated otherwise, or it will keep the previous CID. We need to reset that. So add a step parallel to this one, add sibling below, and into you say otherwise. When this is not true, then set.cid equals to blank. Reset the previous value, otherwise it will keep that, right? If you change it to no, for example, you change it to yes, it will generate an ID. If you change it back to no, it will keep that ID. You are not if you're not resetting it, right? So this is done. Let's test it this much only. Let's see if this is working. One step at a time. That's how we develop an application. So at the moment it is loaded. Now if I say yes, did okay, it did not run. Did I not save it? Let me check that. Action, refresh this section, generating this set reset. Okay, I think I know why it's not working, but let me try that one more time. Good. So what's happening? Um, this is very interesting. Focus here. When you are changing the value yes and no, this is being changed on the browser. Okay, this is not available on the server. You are running a data transform. That is a rule that gets executed on the server. The server does not have this value yes or no because it is you haven't made a call to server. You did not submit. So it never finds the value yes. It finds it null. So it doesn't execute these. What is the solution of this? So whenever you are changing, send the value to the server before you refresh. So to send the value to the server, you have an action called post value. This will send the value to the server. Okay. And then the this data transform will be able to read the current value. Save it. Okay, let me launch a new case. What? See if it is it has generated it. Okay, it generated, but it did not show here. Why? Oh, sorry. This is we did not copy it to the customer property yet, right? So it is not showing it to the customer property. Let's do that as well because this CID is taken from the customer property. If you look at the work page, basically clipboard, so it is generated on the customer ID generated in the work page. But the value that we are showing there is taken from the customer.cid. The customer CID is still blank. So when it is new, what you can do is you can also populate the value to the customer CID too. This is going to be the CID from the work class. You will not generate it again. You will pass the work class CID that we stored in the PY work page temporarily. We will pass this value to the customer.cid. Okay, let's see. No, 0, yes. See, the value got populated. No, okay, it should be overridden there as well. If it is reset here, so you will reset the customer.cid to. It is no, that means it has to be entered by user. Okay, let's test that again. Yes, generated. No, gone. Yes, no, yes, no. This is fine. Now, ideally, we should not display this section until we have the CID. Okay, until you have the CID on the work class, you should not display this section. You can do that. So just click on this pencil icon on the section and put visibility condition and put an expression that don't display it if the CID equal to sorry, display it when the CID not equal to null. Okay, display this when the CID is not equal to null. When the work class has a CID, then only display it. Now, see, and as soon as you enter, this is displayed, right? When you mark it null, goes away. What is the record name? This is the customer one. So if I put them there, new customer, no. See, value is coming up. If I say yes, then it all goes new customer. Yes, it should generate a new, but it should also reset other properties. So that is a problem. What we will do is we have an option to remove a property. We will remove this customer property altogether. Okay, when it is no. So there will not be a value no. And we will do the same thing. Initialize one new customer. We will add a sibling above. We will first remove if there was any previous value. Remove that from the property and then generate new. Okay. In both cases, we are removing. So if there was any previous value, copy it from yes and no, remove that. So yes, no values, no. All right, let's paste this. This is value coming in. Now again, say yes. It is wiped out. New ID is generated. No. Good. Working absolutely as expected. Right. Now, if it is yes, the user can provide the name and everything. Okay. Now remember, this is being executed as a section, and you you might remember what I explained earlier, that the section is populated from the flow action. So apply flow action was executed. Apply flow action referred you showed you that section. After you submit this form, you should need to save it. In order to save that, we will have to copy from the customer property to the savable data page and then issue a save command. So when you are submitting, you need to write logic to copy it into savable data page. And that should happen only once you have submitted this form. That means the flow action is getting executed or ended. So on the flow actions, we have action tab. There are two type of processing we can do: pre-processing and post-processing. Pre-processing is done before loading this section on that flow action. Post-processing is done after you submit on the section. After you submit, you try to finish the assignment. That's when the post-processing happens. So currently we have our data. When you submit it, you have our data populated on the customer. Okay. When you submit, this is available on the customer. Let me show you. When you submit whatever entry you made, go to the clipboard, Look at the PY work page because it is available on the customer. You need to copy the value from the customer, put it into the because you cannot directly save this property. So you copy that over to this data page and then save it. The data page will already have the customer ID based on what value you will provide from this. Okay, let's do that. How can we do that? It's post processing. So in post processing, we are going to write a data page. Post apply data transform, post apply DT. And we need to, in the post apply DT, we need to update the data page. This is the data page. And the parameter it needs is CID, which is available in .cid property on the work class. So update this with the values from .customer. Earlier also we did it. So I explained you, you can, if it is the class is same, new customer class and customer property class is same, then you can directly do a set. If the class is same, you can copy page to page, you can do set to set. Okay, the customer is of this class, and if you look at this property, this is also page of this class. So these are matching, you can copy one to one directly. So I'm going to follow this approach here. So I'm going to copy everything on the savable data page. Let's test this much. Let's see if the data page has the values. So I'm going to say new customer, yes. New ID is generated. I'm just going to put some values there. Random. And when I'm submitting this, the data page should be there on the clipboard. All the editable and savable data pages you will find under the user pages category. So D underscore new, where is that? What was the name? New customer. Hmm, that was savable. Read onlys will come here, but this was savable data page, right?
We need to run that one, right? It is not yet run or
Oh, I did not save this data transform. Sorry, I did not save this flow action. So even though I typed the name here, it was not saved. Okay. No, you don't have to run it automatically. This data transform will refer that, right?
okay.
This data transform will automatically. One second, what happened? Did I lose connection? No. What? Let me refresh it. Hmm, this is okay. This is the flow action. Action tab. Okay, now it is saved. So this data page will refer, this data transform will refer the data page. It will automatically get created at that point of time. Okay. And then you will copy the values from the customer to this one. Okay. Let's test it again. Good. Let's see. See, new customer is created without the value, but the savable database doesn't save itself actually. Okay. In the database, you will not find that record, the newly created record. That will not be there. You will have to issue a save command, then only it saves. How do we do that? Well, there is three options. You can directly save a savable data page from the post processing. If you add here, it will automatically save it. But the problem is that save data page executes first before you execute the data transform. So you will not have the value on the savable data page unless the data transform is executed. So it's saving an incomplete data, right? It's not good place. Other places that you can call an activity to save the data page. Basically, there's a method called save data page in the activity. We will learn about that as well. Well, we don't want to use activity. Activity use is basically limited. We should avoid that. So other option is that you open the flow. In the flow, you have a shape. Those are three options. So remember this all flow action is being called from this flow. So open this flow. This is the flow action. It is being called here, and the apply flow action, right? And everything is being done here. Add a step, save data page. Add automations, save data page. Yeah, and you name it insert customer record. Okay, specify the data page name, d underscore new customer. It will ask you to provide the parameter that is in the CID. That's okay. Save it. But there's one problem though. What's the problem? The problem is if it was new record, then it's fine that you're inserting it. What if it was old record? You're trying to save this after coming from the section is managing new and old. But this after this section is done, flow action is done, you should not save the record unless it's a new one. And that's the same thing you will have to do in the post processing as well. Add a sibling above, you should do it when the new customer record is yes. Then only you should try to save it. Otherwise, there is no point of saving it. So, yeah, this the value of this when it is yes, then only you execute this. I will copy it and paste it in the 1.1 paste. Otherwise, don't do this. Then only you populate the new customer if it was new customer. Otherwise, leave it. We don't have to save anything. Same logic you will have to apply here too. You should ideally check with a decision whether this is a new customer case that we are processing or old. In this one, you select boolean and you say if new customer equal to yes, then only. If it is true, yeah. If it is true, then insert the record. If it is not true, then directly go to end. You don't have to insert the record. Okay? So not try to save an existing record that's already there. Cool. Now we are we are done. Let's test it end to end. Close everything. Generating a new case. Insurance. I'm going to go with the new customer. Yes. So this is new customer. That data good. If you look at the clipboard, the new customer should be populated as well with proper records. Very well. You should have this on the work page as well under the customer. Good. What about the table? Let's see if it is there in the table as well. A new record has been inserted. This is what we inserted. Perfect. Let's test it with existing record. No. See, This time if we submit, that new customer should not be there because it's conditional. We were doing that conditionally in the data transform, right? In our flow action, we ran the data transform post and we were calling that uh, we were executing this new data page only if the customer was yes, otherwise we did not. So this never reached. When it was not reached, the data page is not created on the clipboard. And when it ended the flow action, we reached to the flow again. um, we evaluated here, is it a new customer? We found no. Then we go to false. We did not try to save it. So no problem at all. This data page was not created, neither saved. And that's how we insert new value into a table using savable data page. This is the basically standard way of operating data into a table. Saving or updating is also one option. Um, that's basically something that I will cover in the next session, how to update record getting from the screen. Maybe we will get new customer no only. It is going to be old customer. And when you provide the customer ID 001, we will provide a checkbox. Do you want to update the customer record? If you want to update that, then we will click checkbox and we will make it editable. Let the user update it and then we will save it back, the update record. So that will be an existing updating as existing record. How do we do that? That's something we will cover in the next session. So far in the last two sessions, we have covered basically how to get the data from the table and display it on the screen, and how do we insert a new record, and how do we play around the control of new and old. This is what we have learned in the last two sessions. This session concludes here.